Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are here to react to some of the biggest news that's been circulating online over the past couple of weeks. In particular, we're going to be focusing on the horrific situation inflicting Gaza and occupied Palestine right now. There's a number of different stories which we're going to discuss from different angles. But first and foremost, I think that we're going to have to speak about the conflict in general, if you even want to call it that. I don't consider it a conflict, and I think most normal people do not. I'm going to bring you in Roshan Mohammed Saleh, my new boss, the senior editor and founder of Five Pillars. I think one thing that we've missed during the past couple of weeks is your reaction on camera.
The whole world has missed my reaction.
Absolutely, that's what we're waiting for.
The whole world is waiting for that.
The whole world is waiting for it, and I'm happy to provide it. So Roshan, just tell me, where are we at with this conflict? Where do you think it's going to go? I think the biggest question that people are asking right now is, now that Israel has gone into Gaza, and is engaging in a massive genocidal campaign there, is Iran going to step up? Are they going to get involved, or are their proxies going to get involved? What about Turkey? What about the Arab world? Tell me what you think.
But before we get to that, Robert, I mean, do you condemn Hamas?
Do you condemn Hamas?
No, do you? Are you a terrorist?
Condemn Hamas?
No, you're a terrorist.
No, you're a terrorist. You are a terrorist, and I know so because everyone's been telling me so.
I don't condemn Hamas. It's not obligatory to condemn Hamas. I condemn Israel. I condemn the 75-year occupation, the murder, mayhem, occupation, war, the prisoners, everything. I condemn the occupier, not the occupied.
Are you telling me that this started before October the 7th?
Yeah, the clock started ticking on October the 7th, didn't it? Yeah. No, this started a long time ago.
Stuff happened before October the 7th. Well, that's news to me.
Well, yeah, I'm not into this condemning thing. Muslims, I find it cringeworthy when Muslims do it. They shouldn't do it. They shouldn't have any need to do it. Just focus on condemning Israel. Okay, so to answer your question, is it going to turn into a wider conflict? Look, Israel's war aims are incredibly ambitious. They have basically stated to their own public that they are going to destroy Hamas. They are going to basically install a new structure in Gaza. And the subtext to this all is that they're probably going to try and expel as many Palestinians as possible into the Sinai. So these are incredibly ambitious war aims, but they are repeating them again and again to their own people, which makes me think that they're going to have to try and deliver those war aims. And if they do, then I think this will turn into a wider conflict. And I think, yes, you will find certain actors, probably the Iran-led, they call it the Axis of Resistance. They will deepen their involvement. Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
So more than the border skirmishes we've seen.
At the moment, it's just border skirmishes. Hezbollah have kind of lobbed a few missiles at Israel. They have, I think they've lost 50 of their members. Hezbollah. So that's quite considerable. I don't think they've killed any Israeli soldiers yet, but they are involved. They are pinning down battalions in the north, giving the Israelis something to think about and to worry about. But I would still categorize it at the moment as border skirmishes rather than a full-scale conflict, because we do know that Hezbollah is much more powerful than Hamas in terms of its artillery, its arsenal. It can really do Israel some severe damage. So they are holding back at the moment.
But will they go in? That's the big question. Or are they going to just talk about it, basically? That's what I think.
I think most, from the kind of circles I'm involved in, there is condemnation of the Arab regimes completely. They've done nothing apart from talk and just words. Condemnation of countries like Turkey and Erdogan making fantastic speeches but doing nothing, not even breaking off relations. There is, surprisingly, some might say, because obviously there's history here, between Sunnis and Shias and, Iran and the rest of the Muslim world when it comes to Syria and Iraq. Iran is not the most popular country in the world, in the Sunni world, there's no doubt about that. But I think on this one issue, there's a general recognition that Iran and its allies have a better position on Palestine than the Arab regimes do. But there's still this feeling that it's a lot of talk, it's a lot of bluster, and they've done more than everyone else, but they haven't done enough.
And I think what the saddest thing of this, obviously the saddest thing is with the innocent deaths in Gaza that we're seeing, and all the kids and women that are getting mutilated. But the Arab leadership, they sit on so much wealth and they seem to be deluded in the sense that they are so valuable. They're like the richest people in the planet. I think they're trillionaires, like the Saudi elite are trillionaires.
Money to burn.
Money to burn. But yet, actually, the blood that's in their veins is so worthless that, it's normal for Arab kids to get killed. And no one's reacting to it in the way, like, for example, when Russia went into Ukraine, there was a huge international reaction to it. Russia's basically been sidelined to the point where you're not even allowed to mention Russia anymore. It's like they don't even exist. But all of these innocent Arabs getting killed in Gaza, and the Arabs are doing nothing about it. The leadership, at least.
I don't think they care.
I
don't think they care. I mean, when I look at the Palestinians in Gaza, I'm ashamed, but I'm also jealous because I think. I mean, I said this to you yesterday. I think that in terms of Islamically speaking, the suffering that they're going through and the sacrifices they're giving. I mean, the station that they must have in the eyes of Rabb al-Alameen, our Lord, must be so high. And we're sitting here in the West, in the comfort of the West, just talking about it and not going through any sacrifices and quite frankly, not willing to make any real sacrifices as well. And I just think our station in the eyes of our Lord must be so low compared to them.
Let's talk about Jordan Peterson, the one guy who you know very well simply because you've criticised him from day one, really. That's one thing which I think you got right. You've been on the right side of history with that. Jordan Peterson has crawled out from under the woodwork again, this time appearing on Piers Morgan, and he's expressed some regret at a tweet which he issued early on after October the 7th, where he basically said, give him hell, Netanyahu, enough is enough. And it caused a humongous backlash. Let's play out now his reaction to Piers Morgan, who questioned him about that, because obviously I think that the Muslim reaction to it has caused some significant damage to his reputation, more so already than the damage he's already done.
On October the 7th, you tweeted, give them hell, Netanyahu, enough is enough. And you got some blowback for that, as everybody who says anything about this. Were you surprised by the scale of the blowback? Do you wish you'd phrased that tweet differently? Do you have any regrets about it?
Well, I was upset because I had developed somewhat of a Muslim following on YouTube, and I was very happy about that. A lot of people on the Islamic side of the world were watching my biblical lectures, for example, and and I've had extensive conversations with Muslims on my YouTube channel, and I burnt some of that up, and I'm not sure I did that. Well, I would say I'm certain I didn't do that in the most productive manner, and so do I regret it? It would have been better to do the long form, to have done the long form to begin with, And Twitter invites and rewards a certain amount of impulsivity, and it wasn't, I don't know, Piers, I don't know if it's ever time for impulsive action, especially when the stakes are serious,
So it's sort of regret there. What do you make of it?
Okay. I mean, his actual tweet was give him hell, give him hell. So he's talking about the long form there. What's the long form? Give them hell. I mean, he's a massive
not
fraud.
Using a full sentence in the tweet might be his biggest regret.
Jordan Peterson, we've done a podcast on this before, I think, and Jordan Peterson is just a massive fraud, and he's always been a massive fraud. And how Muslims couldn't see through him, it bewilders me. And we have Muslims engaging with him from lots of Muslim fans. I mean, I used to watch his. I heard a lot about him, so I actually bought his book, 12 Rules for Life, I think it's called. I couldn't get past the first 3 or 4 pages. It's so boring. And I think, what's the fuss about? So I thought, there must be something about this guy. So I thought I'd watch his YouTube lectures. Again, really, really boring. I have no idea why anyone would want to watch this guy. I mean, obviously, his lecturing of Muslims, and I remember he got into the sectarian issue once, didn't he, between Sunnis and Shias. He was lecturing us about it, and then obviously telling us to accept the Abraham Accords.
He pushed that in this talk as well. It was all about the Abraham Accords and how amazing it is and how we need to finalise it.
I think what he said there about biblical teaching is interesting. He said, I got loads of Muslims watching my biblical lectures. What does he want to convert us to Christianity? I mean, fat chance, but is that his agenda?
It probably is, and I think he's just a charlatan. I actually referred to him after that tweet as a hoe, and it got onto the Dean show. It actually got onto the Dean show, and I say it because he's literally rented himself out to an apartheid supporting platform, the Daily Wire.
Right.
And he's pushed these opinions. I'm just glad that he's exposed himself because he clearly hates Arabs. He supported this war criminal Netanyahu at a time when everyone knew that what Netanyahu was going to do, what Israel was going to do going into Gaza was murder and mutilate innocent civilians, including kids. It's what Israel's famous for. And he's willing to put his name to that brand, this apartheid brand, this regime, which does nothing but kill innocent people. And I mean, has he even deleted the tweet? I don't even think he has.
I don't think there's. I mean, I think the lesson for us Muslims is that we should not take non-Muslim celebrities as our idols, as people to follow. I mean, we have the best of creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to follow his example, and we just don't need to. I mean, obviously, if we're living in non-Muslim countries, we should make alliances to a certain extent. Not from a position of weakness, but from a position of strength with non-Muslims and work on common issues. But we shouldn't take them as our teachers. And I think Muslims were literally idolizing this guy at one point. Thankfully, no longer.
Yes, and I have to say he's suffered with depression before. And you said this about Alistair Campbell, the famous supporter of war crimes in Iraq, that you basically hope that he forever stays depressed, I think. Something like that.
Twitter censored me for that because I said that, obviously Alistair Campbell is a war criminal. He was literally the guy that was beating the drums for this illegal war in Iraq, which killed up to 1 million people. He's literally a war criminal. He should be behind bars. But the BBC wheels him out as some kind of, celebrity authority on mental health. And all I said was basically that he deserves all the mental health problems he's going through. I mean, his victims in Iraq are going through a lot worse.
Yeah.
But I think I got a lot of flack for that, but for speaking the truth, basically.
Yeah, well, I think that I echo that statement in regards to Peterson. I think he deserves it. I think there's a reason he's got it. Maybe that's from the creator of the universe. Maybe that's something he's meant to be afflicted with in this dunya. Because, his position on this has been inexcusable and disgraceful and totally disgusting. And I don't even think he didn't even bother to apologize for it, and he's expressing regret.
Apology.
Regret why? Because he's losing Muslim followers online. Oh, get stuffed, Jordan Peterson. Seriously, get stuffed. Next one. Keir Starmer now, another one who we've got to react to, the Labour leader here in the UK, who might be the next Prime Minister. That's what he's hoping
Looking
for.
like he will be,
He looks like he's going to out the Tories. But basically, he has again caused a firestorm after comments he made on LBC, a radio platform, where he basically expressed support for Israel's genocidal, medieval-style total siege of Gaza, including basically not allowing food, water, aid, anything in. And he basically said, well, Israel's got a right to do that, essentially, in that interview. I'm going to play out now a follow-up interview he did this week, where he basically went to Chatham House and explained why he refuses to support a ceasefire. So he's already expressed support for the siege. Now he's expressing why he refuses to this day to call for a ceasefire. Let's play it out now and see exactly what his words are.
Keir Starmer, the reason that dozens of Labour MPs are urging you to call for a ceasefire is because over 3,000 children are dead. Because you haven't done that today, we know that shadow ministers are considering resigning. The mayors of London and Manchester disagree with you. The leader Labour in Scotland says that you have hurt Muslim communities. How on earth are you going to bring your party back from this level of division?
Well, we've all seen those images of children dead, and there's no unseeing those images. And I think it's really important to understand that. For the reasons I set out, notwithstanding that I do understand why some are calling for a ceasefire, I do not think that that is the right call now, because it does freeze the situation as it currently is. And if we freeze the situation as it currently is, that means that Hamas is left with the capability to carry on with the sort of attacks it carried out on the 7th of October and is continuing to carry out. It is still attacking. And of course, it is holding 200 plus hostages. You cannot freeze that situation without effectively denying a sovereign state its self-defense. But allied to that, and to alleviate the thing that is driving others to argue for a ceasefire, the humanitarian pauses to allow aid in are the practical, workable, viable solution that could be implemented realistically in the near future to allow that to happen.
So what's your reaction to that? Do you think Muslims, what do you think of him and Muslims still voting Labour at this stage?
I think he's a genocide supporter. I think it's simple as that. We can all see what's happening in Gaza. I think the latest figures at the time of recording, something like 8,500 dead and about 4,000 children dead. Carpet bombing of Gaza. Carpet bombing. It's not as if they're targeting Hamas fighters, Hamas soldiers, they're killing civilians. And I think that's obvious for the world to see. Even those who are anti-Palestinian and pro-Israel, people can see that. This guy's a genocide supporter, as simple as that. This is a seminal moment, I think. Obviously, I was around at the time of the Iraq War as a young reporter. And that was the last time I can see such an outrageous complicity in genocide and in war crimes from the British state. And he's obviously going to be our next prime minister, unfortunately. And, you know, what more does he want for a ceasefire? I mean, how many more babies does he want dead? The guy has no morals whatsoever. And talking about humanitarian pauses, I mean, what does he want? He wants to feed the Palestinians for a few days before they die. You know, they get killed the next day,
like a last meal or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is just horrendous talk and appalling. It's just kind of. It's just his way of trying to show a little bit of humanity to the world, project a bit of humanity. Oh, yes, let's have these humanitarian pauses for a few days before Israel starts the carpet bombing again. You know, the guy has no morals. I do not understand, Robert, why Muslims are still in the Labour Party, you know, and are trying to change from inside. I mean, are they crazy? Are they so naive and crazy and quite frankly idiotic and foolish that they think that they can change the Labour Party from within? No, we need to stop voting Labour, stop canvassing for Labour, start being part of Labour. We need to punish these guys because, like it or not, they do actually rely on the Muslim vote in a lot of areas. And, you know, I'm not saying that we can, you know, be kingmakers. I think those claims are a bit overblown. But we can still make a very, very strong point to this genocide supporter that if you continue behaving like that, you're not going to get any Muslims voting for you anymore.
I think it is a disgrace. I mean, I feel embarrassment and humiliation that I used to ever be associated to the Labour Party. I did my bit under Corbyn's era because back then I was naive and thinking that we could change something. But very early on, I think after a couple of years of being involved in the inner workings of it as a member, I realised it's a poison brand, can't be saved. The Corbyn era was weak and pathetic anyway. It was just a wet sponge, really. A kind of a sweet old man who meant well, but was weak and pathetic.
Weak leader, yeah.
And just how Muslims can stay associated. I kind of feel like, in a way, it's good that Starmer's been exposed in this way because it really shames those Muslims who remain going forward. I mean, how can they stay? I have no idea. I really hope that Muslims do punish Labour, and I think that there needs to be a campaign. The Tories, you know, it's like Malcolm X said, there's like a wolf and a fox. Those are your enemies. The wolf is better in the sense that he shows you his teeth and you know what he's about. That's the Tory government. We know they're a bunch of, they're the nasty party, right?
The enemy that we can see coming.
Exactly. Yeah. But Labour literally goes to mosques and pretends they're the party of minorities and that they care for Muslims, they care for Muslim issues. When has Labour ever stood up for Muslims? They've been humiliating and betraying and backstabbing Muslims time and again.
Yeah.
And any Muslim that rises to prominence in the party either has to compromise severely or they get basically disciplined and booted out. So, you know, it's a poison brand. I think any Muslim at this stage who supports it, I mean, immediately I'm just going to have no respect for a Muslim in this sense. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that loves and respects all Muslims. But if I meet someone who genuinely supports Labour going forward after this, they're willing to bow down to this guy as their leader, their political leader. This guy who literally is supporting medieval war crimes against our brothers and sisters in Gaza right now. Shame, 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 shame.
I mean, there have been a few resignations, haven't there? But not enough, quite frankly. I mean, there've been, I don't know, a few dozen resignations, maybe a bit more than that, maybe 100 or so from Labour councillors, etc. But you know, I'm not going to trumpet that. I think there needs to be like every single councillor needs to resign and every single Muslim needs to stop voting Labour. Then I might celebrate something. But but there definitely should be a concerted campaign at the next general election for Muslims to abandon Labour.
Yeah, because I think as Muslims, we don't always have the power to do something. Boycotts work not against brands that don't need you. So the Tories don't necessarily need the Muslim vote. So boycotting the Tories is a bit of a waste of time. You know, it could have some effect here or there, but ultimately not. Labour does kind of need Muslims to vote for them, especially in some key constituencies where they have thousands of Muslim votes that they rely on. We have the ability to punish Labour here, and we should punish them. Absolutely. I mean, they've done so much that we should have punished them before. But if this is not the red line for British Muslims to punish Labour and to use the power that we have in this instance, I don't know what to say, Roshan. I mean, I'll lose a bit of hope here. I've seen a good reaction online and people really having a go at Labour. So I hope that we follow.
I hope that energy won't dissipate before next year. The elections next year, isn't it? The last thing I would say is in his constituency, I think it's somewhere in London, there are a lot of Bangladeshi Muslims. He has a huge majority, but I think those Bangladeshi Muslims should take a lead.
Brothers, you know what to do. You know what to do. Get this guy. Give him a hard time. Let's. You remember what happened at Batley and Spen by-election? Muslims came out in good numbers there and supported an independent candidate and gave Labour a real hard time. They didn't manage to force Labour out, but that was one heck of a story. I think we had a lot of fun up there in Batley and Spen, didn't we?
Yeah.
So let's see if we can cause this guy some real problems, because he deserves it, man. He really deserves it.
They're gonna pick up on that statement, aren't they? The Zionists. What problems do you mean? What kind of problems do you mean? What have you got in mind?
Legal problems.
Peaceful problems. Just peaceful problems.
I'm going to join Dilly on the Hall of Fame of.
It's just weird. No, we have to second guess everything we say, isn't it? It's hard to be a Muslim and be able to speak your mind, because everyone's assuming that you're thinking something else or plotting something else.
Yeah, like I said, Roshan's. Go for Roshan.
We're going to cause you, Keir Starmer, peaceful problems.
We're going to talk about another crackdown that's happening on Palestine solidarity in general, because that's something which the UK has seen in probably an unprecedented form now. I mean, people are getting carted off waving a Palestinian flag or saying the wrong things, certain Palestine chants which are controversial. But even there's been a massive right-wing backlash about Muslims praying in the street in some of Britain's most iconic locations in central London. There was a massive prayer outside Downing Street. There was some Quran recited opposite Big Ben. We've had Muslims giving du'as in outside embassies and stuff like that, and it's caused a real upset among all these right-wingers, all of these anti-immigration media pundits who think that Britain's fallen to the wave of Islam coming over from the Muslim world, and everything's changed, and oh my God, what do you make of it? Because they're really going after Muslims now.
I mean, alhamdulillah, the more people that are exposed to the beauty of the Quran, the better. I think you went to the march last week, and they were reciting a really beautiful recitation of Surah Ar-Rahman. And I mean, so many non-Muslims, thousands of non-Muslims would have heard of that, and at least some of them, it would have piqued their interest. What do these words mean? And inshallah, some of them will convert to Islam. I mean, the more non-Muslims are exposed to Islam in this country, the better. And may all of them convert, and I hope that Britain turns into a Muslim country.
Inshallah, it might be the only way that we can force a change, because Britain has supported so many.
We are the moral conscience of this country now.
There's no doubt about it.
Literally, we are the ones with the morals in this country that are leading from a moralistic point of view. And may non-Muslims take heed of our moral compass.
Absolutely, yeah. Wise words from Roshan here, the spiritual leader of British Muslims. But yeah, I have to say that it's a crazy backlash. I mean, there's condemnation of Islamic words now. Like if you call for jihad, they're trying to make that as if it's like a criminal offence now.
Well, what are the Israelis doing? They're calling for jihad, aren't they? The Israelis in this country, they're literally calling for jihad on Gaza. They're literally flying to Gaza, British citizens, taking part in this terroristic army, which is, impacting hell on the innocent civilians of Gaza. So, that's what the Israelis are doing. They're calling for jihad.
Yeah, and they have foreign fighters going there. I mean, there are British citizens going to fight for the IDF. British citizens going over there to join a foreign military force.
Absolutely.
I thought that was against the law, and
only if you're Muslim, it is.
Yeah, exactly. So I think double standards there are plain for everyone to see. Selective outrage, selective criticism. Muslims again are being scapegoated. It's the easy target as a minority. And I think that one thing that I will say as well is that everyone's complaining about these protests.
Yes.
The Palestine protests are
hate
huge.
Marches.
Yeah, they're hate marches, and even just causing an inconvenience. The fact that they're marching through London on on a Saturday afternoon when I'm trying to stroll down to Hyde Park and have a beautiful day out of tea at the Ritz or whatever it is. And now what they're doing is they're going to stations now. They've gone to a couple in London and they've done these massive sit-ins. And people are complaining like, oh, my train schedule. People are dying in Gaza, man. What the hell? I don't give a rat's backside about your train schedule or your pleasant afternoon walk in central London being ruined because of these students waving Palestine flags. I couldn't give two hoots about it. I hope that they keep causing disruption in central London because at the end of the day, if these politicians are not going to do anything about it, then we're going to have to cause a bit of disruption.
What can you do? What can you do if your government and politicians and mainstream media are complicit in genocide? What option does that leave us? But yeah, the hate marches. I mean, I think you and me have been on several of these marches, and several of these hate marches. So we're participants in these hate marches. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of people are marching, and most of them, obviously, I mean, non-Muslim. You know, 80% of them non-Muslim, by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of like Jewish people there, religious and secular Jews attend these marches, and somehow they're described as anti-Semitic. There's a lot of old age pensioners, anti-war pensioners there. You know, honestly, I've been to pretty much all the big ones. I've never felt so safe in all my life. Like literally, there's a bunch of
there were like 10 arrests or something like that. I mean,
5 arrests out of 500,000 people.
You go to any town centre on a Saturday night with people spilling out of pubs, punch-ups, etc. These are hundreds of people, and you will get more arrests than that.
At a football match, there's more arrests made probably every week. If you look at all the fixtures across the country and tally up all the arrests that are made, I'm sure it'd be way more than 5. Do you know what I mean? So an average football weekend would probably give you more bad results, and no one talks about it.
I mean, I bet the government would love to ban pro-Palestine marches, like France has, like Germany. But they've got a problem. Literally hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people probably, because the people that go out to march are probably the fraction of the people that feel that way, because most people can't be bothered going out to march. They've got a problem with public opinion, and the mainstream media in this country is not reflecting that public opinion. You watch Sky News, BBC, you'd think this country was majority pro-Israeli, and it certainly isn't. And that gives us some hope. The real battle is on social media. Obviously, we are winning that battle hands down, and I don't give ourselves too much credit, because it's actually an easy battle to win, because it's black and white here. It's light and darkness. It's a very easy argument to win. But now they're resorting to banning on social media as well, because they can't win the argument.
Exactly, just pure censorship. They can't win the argument, just censor it. But what do you make of all of the... there's been some pro-Israel action in London, to be fair.
Pathetic.
People coming out, pathetic numbers.
Hundreds.
Small, few hundreds at most.
No one supports Israel. They can't get... Even if there was like a massive, kind of pogrom in Israel or something, they'd get a few thousand people on the streets, because no one supports Israel, really. It's just strategic people that support, important people with power. They support Israel, but Israel has no real popular support anywhere in the world. They're consistently the most unpopular country in the world when opinion polls are done. No one really supports Israel. It's just people with vested interests and money and power in positions of power in the media, financial institutions, political institutions. They're the ones that support this terroristic, racist apartheid state.
Exactly. Yeah, apartheid's not popular, and I don't think that's surprising, to be honest with you. But yeah, I have to say that I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and there's plenty to react on. So stay tuned. You'll see it shortly on YouTube.